So this is Prithvi Chauhan. I'm an entrepreneur who has a business, a healthcare investment business in UAE. And over the last few years, I have been involved in several multi-million dollar transactions, including a $3.5 million deal, a $10 million deal, a $15 million deal, a $25 million deal, a $110 million deal, and a $120 million deal. And I did it, I was involved in these transactions over a period of 2 years. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about this book that I read a couple of years ago that allowed me to get in this position. And I'm just 28 years old right now. So things happened very quickly. And everything happened after I read this book. So then the name of this book is Your First 100 Million. And it's written by my mentor, Dan Pena. Now, just a quick introduction of Dan Pena. He has over 50 years of business experience. And he created a company from $820 and it reached up to $450 million in market capitalization. And this happened within 7 years. And he did this, I think, 25, 30 years ago. And this was not a tech company. Usually you see that kind of growth happening in a tech company. This was an oil and gas company. And the name of the company was Great Western Resources. So in this book, Your First 100 Million, Dan Pena talks about the strategy the fundamental strategy that allowed him to create such a massive growth in over a period of 7 years. And we will look into this strategy, what this is and how you can implement it. And these days he teaches entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs how to get in the same position and how to create wealth, generational wealth, in 5 to 7 years' time in his castle. You know, he lives in a castle now. He's a very wealthy man. And he has 2 different programs. One of them is called Quantum Leap Advantage. And the other one is called Quantum Leap Advantage Hardcore. I have had the honor of attending both of them in 2019. And this is the reason why I'm able to do what I'm doing now. So we're going to talk a little bit about the book. Also, one more thing, he has created over $1 trillion in equity value through his students, through his people who have been mentored by him over the last 25 years. And some of the people include Klaus Kleinfeld, who was the former CEO of Siemens. And he's the current CEO of the Alcoa Group. And he was responsible to do one of the largest deals in recorded history. And that deal was with the Saudi government, a $500 billion deal to build the city of Neom. You might have already heard about it. If you haven't, you can Google it and check it out after this video. And he has been involved in many transactions. So when I say, or when he says $1 trillion, that's not his net worth. That's not the amount of cash that he has, but that's what we refer to as equity value. You know, he has been involved in transactions that value of that size. He has been directly or indirectly involved in that volume of transactions through his mentees and devotees. So this is the man who wrote this book, and he is talking about how to make your first 100 million in 5 to 7 years time. And if you fuck it up, 10 years. So how is it that you can go from zero or little or nothing? And this book, by the way, assumes that you don't have any money. It's because Dan Pena, when he started, he did not have any money. That's why he says that I turned $820 into $450 million. So especially if you don't have any money, you're starting out, and you want to know how this kind of growth happens, then this book is for you. So I was checking online everywhere, for looking for advice. I wrote down all my goals. I'm just giving you a little bit background before we get into the book. And I had been writing my goals since I was 17 years old. So over the last 10 years. And after I wrote down my goals, I knew I needed someone who could help me achieve those goals, because I had no idea how am I going to achieve, goals of this size. And my goal was to become a billionaire and make a lot of money in a very short period of time. And virtually no one was talking about it. There were individuals who were talking about making a couple of $1 million, or maybe talking about getting good at sales, negotiation, different aspects of business. But nobody was giving a proven step-by-step model of making 100 million. There are proven step-by-step models to making 1 million, even 10 million. But a proven step-by-step model to make 100 million or more was something that nobody was talking about. So this book got me attracted, and only Dan Pena was talking about it. And I picked up the book and I started to read. So let's get right into it. So this book revolves around the story of how he created the Great Western Resources. And this company was created by primarily following one major strategy. And that strategy is business acquisitions. What is business acquisition? It simply is when one company buys another company and has buying other companies as a primary strategy for growth. So they're not investing so much maybe in marketing. They're not investing so much in developing products and services. They're not necessarily investing so much in finding new, base of customers, or starting something from scratch. This company is focused on buying other companies. And that's exactly why this company has been formed, to buy other companies. So this is a strategy, which is business acquisitions, that Dan Pena used to grow his company that rapidly. I don't think in any business model other than tech, this kind of growth is possible. And even in tech, it is very rare. And that's why you cannot say that, even Mark Zuckerberg cannot say that what he has done can be replicated over and over again in a reliable step-by-step format, because trends keep changing, so many things keep changing, and timing is very important. So this book doesn't talk about those strategies. This book talks about business acquisitions, buying other companies. If you think about it, this is true in any area of life. Is it easier to create, for example, a shirt from scratch, or is it easier to just go to the market and pay some money and buy the shirt? It's obviously way more easier to buy the shirt, a ready-made shirt that so many people have been involved in. The farmer, is doing the harvesting of cotton. Then the cotton goes to another person. Then threads are made. Then it goes to the factory. And then, there are so many hands involved in making a shirt. Even something as simple as a shirt can be extremely complex. So if you want a shirt, you don't go and start farming for cotton. You just go and you buy a shirt from the market. So why would you start a company from scratch if you want let's say you want $1 million company? Why would you start something from scratch when you can just go find a business that's doing $1 million in revenue and has a healthy profit? And why wouldn't you just acquire it? Ultimately, the ownership of the business gets changed by signing a few pieces of paper. That's really how transactions are done. So you could just sign some papers and get the ownership of a multi-million-dollar business. Obviously, I'm oversimplifying. You need to get the financing. You need to agree on the price. You need to negotiate. But it's going to be, no matter what the process is to acquire, and we'll get into that, but it's not going to be as complex as creating a multi-million-dollar from scratch. So this is the reason why so many businesses fail, is because they are trying to create value and not trying to acquire value. So this one distinction absolutely blew my mind, is that I was thinking about creating value, developing a product or service, testing different products, testing different markets, and, hiring employees, putting a lot of startup capital, and still things may not work out. And I was really paralyzed before starting a business. But when Dan Pena put it in a very simplified format that you're doing it the wrong way, there are already businesses which are very well established that are doing $1 million, $10 million, $20 million, $50 million. And you can just reach out to these decision makers of these businesses, and you can strike a deal and you can acquire their company. You can pay money and you can acquire their company. And you don't have to even pay money from your own pocket. You can raise capital and you can acquire these companies. So this is the strategy with which this company grew from $820 to $450 million. And I will talk about step by step how that happened. This is going to be a multi-part series, so watch all the videos till the end. And if you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss a video. Every video, I'm going to be talking about business and multi-million-dollar deals or something in that direction. So it's going to be extremely valuable for you to stay up to date with this content. And I'll be posting one video every single day. So hit that subscribe button and I'll see you in the next video. So the book starts with Dan Pena introducing himself. And what Dan Pena is really doing is differentiating himself from other seminar gurus. So he talks about the self-development industry, which is highly, relying on remanufacturing content that was, conventional wisdom. He talks about conventional wisdom. Conventional wisdom is written maybe in spiritual books or, traditional self-development books. And the current modern day self-help gurus just take that content and remanufacture it. And this kind of content, you cannot really measure the results of this content because they tend to be more on the spiritual side. And hence, people keep coming back and the whole industry is surviving on this. So he talks a little bit about that. And he talks that he's explaining that I'm not one of these type of coaches. If you want to make money, if you want to create wealth, if you want financial coaching, then you come to me. That's the message that he's providing in the first chapter. And he talks about his credibility, how he created this company, how many business transactions he has been involved in, how many phone calls he has been involved in, and how many decisions he has taken over the course of his business life. So he talks about all of these things, and then he talks about, the corporate world. And he talks about that there are a lot of misconceptions about business, that business is something that is, the environment is very nice, and, follow your passion, and a lot of nice stuff is said about business. But he talks about that when it comes to business and finance and money, he says you cannot trust people. And he goes on sharing personal stories of how when there is a lot of money on the table, integrity is the first thing that goes out of the window. When it comes to money, really, you cannot trust anybody. When there is nothing to fight for, you can trust almost anybody because there's nothing to fight for. But when it comes to money, when that gets involved on the table, then friends can become enemies. Even families can break on this one topic. So he's really exposing the harsh realities of human nature around money, around the subject of money. People change, their opinions change, their demeanor change around this one subject. And this may not happen at $1,000, $10,000, even a $50,000 level, but the bigger the transactions get, the more treacherous the environment becomes. And after being in the trenches being in business, especially this kind, over the last 2.5 years, I know that this is the case. There are very few people that you can actually trust when it comes to a lot of money. So he is really talking about that. And then he's talking about risks and reward. The bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. And that is so true in the business world, is that the opportunities that have the most reward associated with it has a lot of risk associated with it also. And this is the reason why the reward is so big. It's actually because of the risk. Because the risk pushes people away. The bigger the sacrifice necessary to make that amount of money, the bigger the risk associated with making that big of money, the more people it will push away from that opportunity. So, hence, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward, because there's going to be less competition. So if you are someone who can handle pressure, and the higher the pressure, the less there will be competition. There is a saying, there is lonely at the top, because not that many people can handle that kind of pressure. So the next phase or the next chapter, he talks about pressure. And he says that if we were to put a ladder between two buildings, on the first floor, and we put $1,000 on one end, and we ask you to move, and if you can move from one building to another using this ladder, you can have the $1,000. Most of the people will be able to do that. But if you put the same building at a 15-floor level, people are not going to do that. But the scenario is almost exactly the same. There is the same building, same ladder. It's the same thing you have to do. It's just the height is different. What has happened is that the risk factor has changed and the level of pressure has changed. Still, there might be some people who decide to do it. But what happens if you keep this stair to floor number 50 or 60? Virtually nobody is going to be able to do it. And that is the level of pressure these high performers, like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, these big guys are used to. They're used to big ticket items. They're used to a lot of regulations. They're used to their public perceptions and, like public humiliation. I mean, there are so many things that come when you start making big money, and in the process of making big money, that virtually most people melt under pressure and they give up. So he talks about pressure as a fundamental force in business, especially when you want to make a big amount of money. And he says anybody can make $10,000, $20,000 over a weekend, but what about the big deals? What is required to do the big deals? And then he talks about sacrifices, how he missed many Christmases with his family. He couldn't make it to the school game for his children, and what effect this has on the family unit. The children always remember it, and they can also get scarred, and your relationship with your wife can get affected. I mean, there are times when an entrepreneur who's involved in these big transactions may plan a vacation and at the last moment decide not to go and just send the wife and kids to the vacation. So these kind of things can really create a lot of stress in your home, a lot of stress in your environment. And so he's really being transparent in the book that all of this is going to happen. And he also compares himself with other gurus because they don't talk about this kind of stuff. They they create a very rosy picture that attracts a lot of people, and then they just buy the products from them. But nobody talks about this kind of harsh reality, of business and life. And this is true. As I'm executing this model, I know that my whole family life has been affected. My personal relationships have been affected, and my health also has been affected. And all of this is written in the book that this is going to happen. So he's really kind of shocking you and making you aware that this is most likely going to happen to you. And he says, if that makes you shy away from the opportunity, or that shocks you, and that discourages you, then you should close this book right now and move on to something else, because this isn't for you. And when he says this isn't for you, he really means that this isn't for you. He really means that this isn't for most people. When I attended his talk in London in 2018, when I met him for the first time, he said, this thing that I'm sharing with you will work only for 1% or maximum 2% people in the audience. This is not for everybody. So even people who go to his castle, most of them, especially in the first seminar, a lot of them quit because they realize this is not for them. And this is really the truth. He's not trying to challenge you or trying to, do a reverse psychology, or a negative psychology on you. No, he's actually speaking the truth. This is the case, because you could make an argument of why it is not worth it. There is a whole argument to be made that why it is not worth it to pursue such a big amount of money. So, and this is the reason why people convince themselves and give up and resign and just do something else. So these are the first initial chapters, and we're going to talk about what happens further in the next part. If you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. So now, Dan Pena, in the subsequent chapter, he talks about dreams. He shares his personal stories as to how one dream after the other that he saw when he was a child happened, and how there are several studies of people who actually daydream, and they see their vision in their mind, they actually accomplish it. So there is a whole science behind visualization and dreaming, and seeing your dreams ahead in your mind, and how he manifested a Rolls Royce, he manifested the income that he wanted, and initially he set small goals. He set goals of increasing his income 2 or 3 times. He increased, he bought himself a Rolls Royce at a very young age. I think 25 is what he said. And he talks about how, this thing called smelling the leather. Whatever house that you want to live in, whatever car that you want to drive, he always says, go and go and test drive that car, smell the leather, go and visit that house, visit that multi-million-dollar estate. See what happens to your mind. See how your mind shifts when you do that. If you're not, and the reason he says it is because when he went and actually test drove Rolls Royce, in a couple of months, or I think over a year, he had a Rolls. And then he went to, when he was much older, he went to visit a castle, and in a 7 to 8 month span, he had that castle. And what starts to happen is that when you visit these places that you were dreaming about and you actually go and see them, something shifts in you. Suddenly the sacrifices start to be justified. That yes, this is why I'm sacrificing, this is why I'm working. And it is possible. Somebody actually lives here. Somebody built this place. This is not just something in my imagination. I have seen it. I have touched it. I know it's there. You see yourself in that thing. It shapes your mind. You start to take quick decisions in your life, because you want that thing. And you don't want the pain of not having it. And suddenly you make some changes, and before you know it, you have it. He actually did one test in, he ran a contest, smell the leather contest on his website. And I think many people signed up for it. And whoever goes and does the smell the leather and clicks a picture and sends it to him, whatever car is your favorite, McLaren, Rolls Royce, whatever, you have to click a picture and you have to send it to him. And whoever is the first person will win something. I think a seat in the seminar, or, a book, Your First 100 Million. There was some prize associated with it. And he said that I think only 2 or 3 people actually went and got their pictures clicked. So most people will think that, oh, so many people will enter the contest and, I will not make it. And that's how everybody thought that, oh, so many people would have gone and test drove this thing, but nobody actually went. And he was the one who actually, this one kid went to a Rolls Royce dealership and he clicked a picture and he sent to Dan Pena, and he won the prize. So that just tells you how few people actually dream in reality. So he talks about how dreams can become real. And this castle that he lives in, which I have the privilege of being in and being trained by him directly, this is a very special place, because when you go there, you clearly see that this man dreamed about this place. This man wanted to be and live in this place and live like this. And all of the things that are happening around him, this is what he dreamed about. And what that does is it gives you the opportunity to also dream of living in a castle like this, of having these estates, of dressing like the way he dresses. And it opens up your mind as to what's possible. And it shows you that you're really thinking too small, because you've been conditioned to think too small. So that's the end of this part. I'll talk to you in the next video. Okay, so now that you have understood about the risks, the rewards, the sacrifice necessary that you have to make, and you've understood that the author, Pena, has credibility and has had a lot of business experience, he starts talking about the business model, about buying businesses. And he says that before you enter into the business world, you have to create a proper perception of yourself in the business world. And he said that perception equals reality. You see, people don't know who we really are. People only engage with our perceptions in their own mind. The way we look, the way we stand, the way we speak, and all of this shapes the way people see you. And with every single thing that you do, you're making a statement. You are sending out a message. And it's very important that you send out the right message, because most people are judging you not based on what you are saying, but based on what they are seeing. And if what they see is a guy or a girl just in a casual t-shirt trying to do a business meeting in Starbucks, they're not going to take you very seriously. And if they see you that you are a one-man show, a one-man army, trying to do all the things by yourself, then again, they're not going to take you seriously. And he actually refers to this quote, and he did it either in the seminar or in the book. He says, Niccolo Machiavelli, there is a famous quote by him that the true strength or the true power of an emperor is measured by the kind of people he's associated or he's surrounded with. If you want to know the true power of an emperor, look at the people around him. And this is where he talks about not to associate with people who are low performance people. And by low performance, I think from his definition would be someone who has not been involved in hundreds of millions of dollars in deals and billions of dollars in deals. So that should, in most cases, include all the friends and family. So if you are in business, and even in any of your social media profiles, or, like during the business meeting or wherever, people see you with some friends that frankly are not that inspiring, well, people are superficial and they will judge you. And they will judge your power, the level of power that you have, and the level of capability that you have. So you are always judged by the people that you associate with and how you look. And so this is why perception is very important in business. And he gives examples how governments, when you go to a new city and wherever there is Olympics happening, they will have, they will get the roads clean, they will get everything constructed just outside the airport. Everything is going to look very modern. And what they're really doing is they're creating an impression on people who are coming to this country. And seeing all of this, their minds and opinions are shaped by how they relate to that country. And this also happens in companies. You have the logos, you have, like big, gigantic corporate buildings, and there is a very luxurious lobby, and there is a beautiful assistant. She's dressed very professionally. She's wearing suits which are expensive. She has a bag that's expensive, and she's talking in a very nice way. And then there is a great security system, and you go into the lift, you go on the 15th floor, they invite you on the conference room. The conference room has an oak table, all glass walls, stunning views. The managing partner of that firm comes in a pinstripe suits, with a nice looking hair and a three-piece suit. All of this creates an impression. And it's very important that when you enter into the business world, you have this kind of perception, and you'll have more and more leverage into the conversation. So his recommendation is that every single business meeting, you got to be dressed up in a three-piece suit and you got to buy suits that you cannot afford. So you got to look the sharpest in the room. It doesn't matter who it is. You will be surprised as to how many powerful people actually don't have that expensive suit. Maybe they don't even know, a lot of them, they may not even be aware of too many brands. They just wear a normal suit. But if you really make that extra effort to spend more, and it's much better to have 2 suits which are extremely premium than 5-6 suits which are average. So buy suits that you cannot afford. And he talks about spending more money, expanding your comfort zone by actually increasing your expenses so that you really feel the pressure of creating wealth. And he says that your identity will start to change. And by the way other people treat you, you will start to treat yourself differently, and you will start to communicate differently, and everything about you will change. So I have a personal story about this. I was, in Dubai. I was living 5 years in Dubai, and most of those years I was dressed very casually. So I would go to this Fairmont hotel, and I would have a certain kind of experience. Actually, one time I was just wearing some casual pajamas, and I was denied an entry in a lounge. And this is a long time ago in 2016. And then one day after attending the Castle seminar and reading the book and, getting trained by Dan Pena, I went and bought myself some really expensive suits, a couple of $1,000s. The one I'm wearing right now. And it was really a suit that I could not afford at that time. And I just wore that suit, and I go to the hotel that I usually go, the Fairmont Hotel, and I enter into that hotel, and right from the security guy who's on the gate, he, gives me a salute. He opens the door for me. The moment I sit down, immediately the waiter comes and, starts engaging with me, and everybody is seeing me in a completely different way. And even the guests who were walking outside were looking at me, and I saw what's happening, and I had completely forgotten I was wearing a suit, because I would go to this place and I would get a very different response. Not that many people were looking at me, but now suddenly people were taking me seriously. And even when I met my chairman, who is a CEO of a $3.5 billion company, the first thing that he saw is how I was dressed. And the moment I entered the room, he was sitting at the head of the conference table, and he looked at me, and he was like, he made an eye contact with me. Who is this guy? Because nobody was dressed up in a 3-piece suit. Nobody had the pocket square. Nobody had a nice tie. And people just had come casually. And very ironically, this meeting, this conference was taking place in Burj Al Arab, which is a 7-star hotel. Even there, people were not dressed fully professionally. And that was surprising. So when you dress up in a 3-piece suit, you always have an advantage. And that is one level of perception. There are many layers of perception. So the other aspect of the perception is the people you associate with. So whenever you are entering into the business world, you want to make a statement, not just with the way you look, but you have to make a statement with the people that you have around, your business partners. So he said, if you go to a bank by yourself, most likely you're not going to get money to finance your business acquisitions, because you may not have all the experience that is required. And, you're not giving really a very serious impression to the banks or anybody for that matter. You're just positioning yourself as a one-man show. So it's very important that when you're executing something like this, something of this nature, buying multi-million-dollar businesses, you have a team of advisors. And if you go with this team of advisors, and if you have them in your company profile, people just treat you differently. Suddenly all the doors are open and people will do business meetings with you, and many opportunities will come out just because you're giving that powerful image, that powerful perception. So he talks about this concept in the book, which is known as building your dream team. Building your dream team. And he says that you will need names of executives, names of individuals that you don't have to explain about. You want high profile names on your team. You need people who are, the top guys from finance, top guys from whichever industry that you're going into, CEOs of large companies in the industry that you're getting into, and, top lawyers who worked in international law firms for 25, 30 years, and, guys who have raised a lot of money and actually created successful companies and have a very good relationships in the market. So that's a preliminary step before you look for any financing, before you look for any businesses to buy. You have to have that piece in place, because without that piece, nobody is going to take you seriously. And more importantly, you will not have all the necessary experience that you need to build a company of this nature and of this size. These large companies are not one-man shows. So he gives strategies of how to locate these individuals, how to interview these individuals, how to do presentation for these individuals, and how to get sell these individuals on your dream and on your business idea of buying businesses and creating a large company. You have to create a business plan, a presentation, and meet them, and you can actually you can close them to be your partners in 10 to 15 minutes. Now you might ask, why will these people be part of your company? And this is a skepticism that many people have, but they do become part of your company. And how do you pay them? You just give shares in your company, and they will be basically shareholders in the company, your partners. When you have someone as an employee, you have to pay them. When you have someone as a partner, shareholder, you don't have to pay them. You can pay them once the company gets successful and they understand that. So if you do all these steps and you present them well, you will have, what Dan Pena calls it, the dream team. So just to give a little bit background, I implemented this strategy that I learned, and I have, as a chairman on my company board, a CEO of a $3.5 billion telecom company in UAE. It was the second largest telecom company in UAE. And the CEO of that is on my company as chairman and a shareholder. I have one individual who was in one of the big four accounting firms for over 25, 30 years as my business partner. And I have one from finance, corporate finance background. This person specialized in IPOs. He has done 7 IPOs. He has raised hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's on the board of my company. And I also have another individual from the accounting background from one of the top accounting firms in the world, who also has 30 years of experience on my company. Then I have got 2 healthcare CEOs on my company and 2 top lawyers in the country. So when I walk in with these names on my company profile, people take me seriously. High-profile bankers want to take meetings with me. Owners of multi-million-dollar businesses want to do meetings with me. and I'm welcome everywhere. So this is the reason why you build dream team. It's part of your perception. And you want people who are outside of your comfort zone. You want people who are, antithesis of you, the opposite of you. You want powerful individuals who have had experience of doing large transactions, and they've been part of large companies. And if you do this step successfully, then you would have, and you dress up in 3-piece suits and you're meeting at venues which are high-end. This is another factor. You need to join clubs. He says you need to join clubs, country clubs that you cannot afford, golf clubs that you cannot afford. And you got to stretch yourself and get into these venues. And you have to have meetings at these venues, so that when you invite a banker, a lawyer, or someone reputable and someone you'd want to do business with, you're creating a very powerful impression with the way you dress, with the way you communicate. And for communication, he recommends Toastmasters, which is an organization that helps you improve your communication skills. So the way you look, the way you speak, what venue you are in, and your dream team. If you do this step properly, you will have very successful meetings, and opportunities will start to open up. Doors will open up that you didn't think would open up for you. And there will really be no limits to what you can accomplish. And another thing, another quote that my mentor, Dan Pena, says is, act like you have no limits to your abilities. And really, when you put this team together, you will feel extremely powerful, and you will see that every door that you open up, it gets open because of you have these powerful names and you create a great impression. And this is the reason how I'm able to get exposure to transactions of, that goes into multi-million dollars. One single transaction that goes into such big amounts. It's extremely difficult to even get a meeting with these people. And I'm able to get exposure. And it's because of this building perception strategy. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. So now you have what Dan Pena calls your dream team. You have a highly experienced individual to cover each aspect of the business. And business typically has 3 or 4 aspects. One is finance, and one is accounting. Another one is the industry experience, and another one is overall M&A, which is mergers and acquisitions, which is buying businesses. So this business model has 3 or 4 aspects. You need one expert in each, and you can find them easily and you can pick them. So once you have done this step, you are ready to go and get your external advisors. And this is another extremely important step. So what are the external advisors? These are law firms and accounting firms. And you want the top 3 or top 5 in the region. Why do you want top 3, top 5? Because again, you want names that you don't have to explain about. What type of law firm represents you, and what type of accounting firm represents you? I'll get into that. But what type of firm represents you says a lot about your company in the business world. And when you go to raise financing from, a high net worth individual or a bank, and they see you have your whole dream team and you have top international law firm, your odds of getting financing just increased by 3 times. So if you have audited financials, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but if you have financial statements that are audited by top accounting firms, your chances of getting funding based on those financials just went 3 times. And that's, again, the recommendation of Dan Pena, that you do this. And this is the reason why you want them representing you, because things are taken, you're treated very differently when you have these firms on your team. And more importantly, these firms have big contacts. They have done deals with a lot of people, they have leverage on a lot of people, and they can get a lot of things done because of the position that they're in. And having them on your side, even if you have to pay a big price for it, these are the firms that you engage. Now, how do you engage these firms when you have no money, if you ask? So Dan Pena actually reveals a strategy of how you can engage these firms and have these names on your board without paying them initially. So you come up with a fee structure that they'll do the work, and they will invoice you the fees, whatever the fees needs to be for that amount of work, but you will not have to pay until you do your first deal. So you could have a clause that, yes, you can charge the fees, but we will only pay the fees once we acquire the first business, and then from that business we can pay. Or when you finance the business, you can overfinance it and you can pay for lawyers and accounting firms. So why do you need law and accounting firms? The law firms, simply because of the paperwork, and any business that you're acquiring may have legal issues. So the law firm needs to investigate into those legal issues, tell you if there are any red flags, if everything is in legal compliance. Some businesses have illegal practices, so the law firms can easily detect if this is within regulation or without or outside of the regulation. That's why law firms are very important. And accounting firms are extremely important because they are going to analyze the financial health of the business, whether the business is actually showing you the numbers that are actually there, or is it just smoke and mirror? Are they lying in their financial statements? So when you go to buy a company, you ask for their legal licenses, legal contracts, and their financial information. This is what you are looking at when you look at the company. So if you have an accounting firm validating that and doing due diligence, investigation on these businesses and creating an investigation report, a due diligence report, it's not called an investigation report, it's called a due diligence report, then you can use these reports in your fundraising process, and there is an added credibility to the numbers, and your chances of getting financing once again increased. So this is why you have law firms and accounting firms. Now you have the dream team, you have the law firm, you have the accounting firm, you're dressed up in a nice 3-piece suit, and this is the time to now go and interview banks. And now Dan Pena talks about how do you interview banks, how do you speak to them, how do you, socialize with them, and warm them up for financing. And we'll talk about this concept in the next video. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, hit the subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and be mentored by me, you can actually set up a free consultation call. I'm going to leave a link below to get in touch with me on my, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn profiles, and my email address. So you can get in touch with me and you can set up a free consultation call with me. And if you want to learn how to do this, how to execute this, how to make, your dreams reality, how to make, this business model work for yourself, if this is something you feel and you're beginning to feel that is something I can do, then reach out to me and we'll work out a plan. I can only work with 3 or 4 people in the next over 3 to 6 months. I cannot actually handle too many clients because these mentorship and consultation happen one-on-one. So I only have so much time in the day, and I have my own business that I run. So I cannot take more than 3 or 4 clients. So make sure that you get in touch with me fast, and then we'll see what can be worked out. All right, I'll talk to you soon. So in this video, we're going to be getting into the aspect where Dan Pena in his book talks about how to interview banks, and he has actually given a script within the book of warming up the banks, building a relationship with the bank. The bank, you have to create an impression on them. You have to build a relationship prior to the funding. You don't go to the bank the day you need the funding. You go to the bank when, and these are his words, by the way, you don't go to the bank the day you need the funding. You go to the bank for a future lending, and the bank is going to look at you as a sophisticated entrepreneur, because you are having a conversation with them about a funding requirement that will take place in 3 months from now, 6 months from now. So the banks really appreciate if you come there in advance and you create a presentation for them as to what you're doing, and create an awareness about your company. When you reach out to the banks initially, after building your dream team, you're not reaching out to them for financing. You are just reaching out to create awareness about who your company is, who are the people involved, and what you're doing, and also understand more about their bank, what type of lending criteria they have, on what basis do they give out loans, and does your company qualify or not, and and you got to create a meeting in such a way that you are qualifying them, and you got to create competition between the banks. So Dan Pena talks really in detail about this aspect in the book as to how to interview financial institutions. So let's get right into it. So, first thing is, you don't go to the bank on your knees, is what he said in one of the videos. So you go there dressed up in a 3-piece suit. You invite them to a nice country club or a Four Seasons hotel or Ritz-Carlton, and you have your CFO there or your finance director with you, and you go through an interview process with the bank, and they are not interviewing you, you are interviewing them. So you want them to be on their back foot, you want them to feel the pressure from you. So rather than you being nervous and feeling nauseous, you have to put pressure on them, and create this dynamic where you are the one asking the questions and they are the ones telling you the responses. So the first meeting is basically, you don't go in there with a business plan. That's what Dan Pena says. You go in there with, a big picture idea. This is what we are doing. We are going to be acquiring businesses in this industry. And, these will be the transaction sizes. Do you lend in this industry? What do we got to do to get a loan approved for $1 million deal? What do we got to do to get a loan approved for a $10 million deal? You're really understanding them. What kind of cash flow to debt service coverage you look at. There are some specific questions that you ask them to gather data. And this data is very important, because once you find a business that you want to buy and you need money for that business, then you go back to them and you will go back to them based on the data you gathered initially. So, if there is a $10 million deal and there is one bank who said that, yes, we do $10 million deal and it will take 3 to 4 months to get the approval, then you go to that bank. Some bank may say, oh no, we cannot do $10 million deal. Your first deals needs to be small, but we can do $1 million, $2 million deal. So then you take if you have a $2 million deal, then you go to that bank. So you interview hundreds of banks, and you get really good at it. And Dan Pena recommends that you interview 2 banks a week, whether you need money or not, just to stay in practice. So, and to get good at it. So what happens is, with every presentation, they're asking you questions, and initially you may not understand them, but after a few presentations, the question starts to become same, and you can easily address those questions. So the first intention of the meeting is to just talk about the business plan. The vision of your company. You're not really giving them a business plan, and to interview them and gather data, and you may have a second round of meeting where everything stays the same. You still meet them at the country club. You still have a nice suit. You still have your CFO, and you continue that nice impression. So that's about interviewing financial institutions. Okay, so you have your dream that you're dreaming. You have the business model identified, which is buying businesses. You have bought yourself some nice suits. You have, top advisors on your dream team. You have, interviewed several banks. You have accounting firms. You have law firms. And you have all of these connections now. You came in with no connections, wearing a t-shirt. Now suddenly you are dressed up in a three-piece suit. I'm really talking about myself here. And you line up everything, all of these elements of the business, and you find yourself being in an extremely powerful position. If you want any advice financially, you can make one phone call and you can get advice from the top financial expert. If you want advice on legal matter, you're confused about something, you have a high-profile lawyer advising you. If you want, and these are your partners, your directors. If you want advice, for example, in the industry that you're in, so-and-so, what do you think about this? Or you can do a Zoom call, and you have such a wealth of experience on your board. You have such a track record. Any place you call, you say, they'll ask you for your company profile, your executive summary. And you'll put all of this on your company profile. These are the people on our board. This is our vision. This is who represents us. And you send this company profile. Suddenly, everybody is very nice to you. Everybody wants to do a meeting. They want to understand about your project. They're excited to meet you, and they are shaking your hands. And you're able to, open doors at the highest, at the most top level decision makers. And, if you have a deal, if you have an opportunity that's very profitable, that's lucrative, you have banks now that you can go and present this deal and potentially get financing. I mean, you're starting to feel like a high-profile guy. I mean, you're starting to feel like a powerful guy executing this. So this is the time where Dan Pena talks about having deal flow. Deal in this context, deal can be so many things, but deal in this context means a business that you want to buy, that you have already agreed on a purchase price and the terms of the business acquisitions. What would be the role of the owner after you've acquired the company, how long he's going to stay, what's going to happen to the employees, how much of the purchase price is going to be paid up front, how much is it going to be structured in installments, assuming all of those things are hammered out and in a document, that is essentially a deal, okay? And signed by both the parties. That's an MOU. You can call it Memorandum of Understanding. It's a document that just talks about the terms of the deal. You can use this document to raise actually line up capital and get the banks excited. So, first of all, why would the banks give you the money? You might ask. Doesn't the bank need collateral? You're talking about getting a loan, and why get a loan? So here is where Dan Pena, we'll get to the deal flow, but this is one thing that I just remembered. Here is Dan Pena, what he talks about raising capital. And what are the types of money that are out there that you can raise for your company? And this is the point where I was a little bit apprehensive that I don't want to do business with other people's money. I want to put my own money because it's much more safer, this, that. But if you want to grow fast, you need access to big money. And you can't do big deals by your own money. You have to use other people's money. And your biggest leverage in life, what Dan Pena says, is other people and other people's money. So there are several forms of financing. One of the financing is called equity financing, which is you give out some shares in your company and you bring in money. Another form of financing is debt financing. You get a loan and you have to pay back with interest. Then there are another, which is mezz financing, which is a combination of debt and equity. Not going to get into too much technicality of finance in this video. This is just a review video. But these are the several forms of financing that he covers. There's something called as a seller's financing, which is you acquire a business and you pay no money down, zero money upfront, and you run the business and you pay the seller from the profits of the company, his own company, which is a very funny thing, but it happens. Okay. So the important thing is the deal. If the deal is good enough, the money will be available. If the money is not available, deal is not good enough. As simple as that. So you got to find a good deal. A good deal just means a low purchase price, relative to the cash flow. So if something should be worth 2, and you're paying 1 or 1.5, that can be considered a good deal. I am oversimplifying here about, valuations and opportunities, but to make it very simple, if something is worth 100% and you're paying only 60%, 70% of the value, then that can be considered a good deal, like a discounted price. So if you have a good deal, then there will be a very high chance that you can use the cash flows and pay back the banks. And banks want to make interest. So the more money they push out of the door, the more interest they make. And not only do they make interest, they make bonuses on on each deal. So if it's $1 million deal, the banker will have a bonus from that, maybe $10,000, $5,000, whatever. If it's a $10 million deal, the bonus is going to be bigger. If it's a $100 million deal, the bonus could be in millions. So the more money you borrow, the more money the banker makes. And this is the reason why it's easier to get financing for bigger deals than it is for smaller deals. And this is the reason why there is more excitement for bigger deals. So you can actually ask for more money and end up getting it. And that's the moral of the story. And so why does the bank doesn't need collateral? I'll give you an example. When you go to buy a house and you need financing for the house that you're buying itself is the collateral for the bank, on the basis of which you get the loan. Or if you're buying a car, the car itself becomes the collateral for the loan. But let's stick to the house. It's a much better example. If you want to buy a house, the house that you're buying is going to be kept as a collateral. And if you cannot pay the loan, then the bank will take away the house. Similarly, if you're buying a company, the company itself has assets, it has cash flow, and for whatever reason, you're not able to pay the loan, the bank will take control of the company. And that's called leveraged buyout, which just means that the company itself is pledged with the bank to secure the loan and pay the seller and take control of the company. And you need to run the company, you need to generate cash flow, and you need to pay off the loan with interest. And why this is why banks give loan for acquisitions is because these are established companies. You are not, if these company owners go to get a loan from the bank, they will get it. So you are just going there and you're taking their financials and you are taking a loan out in the name of their company. And you're acquiring the company using the capital that was raised on the basis of that company, buying the owner out and taking control of the company and repeating the process and buying several companies, and this is how you create wealth. If you acquire 15 companies, uh, $2 million each. That's $30 million. And you can sell that. Once you acquire the companies, you can sell that for double price in most cases. And that will be roughly 60 million. You can make 50 to 60 million dollars of capital. Using that capital, you can pay off the directors and the shareholders that you have, advisors, and that's going to be a healthy return for them for not putting in any money, just advising you and making some money. So that's in essence the model. I got a bit deviated, but let's stick to financing. The banks will give you the loan based on the financials of the company, based on the company itself. If the bank doesn't give you the loan, it simply means that the bank doesn't feel safe with the deal. The purchase price is maybe too high. The profit is not good enough. The cash flow is not stable enough. And the bank doesn't have enough, maybe the deal is too risky. And then the bank is not going to give you the money. But if you get a good deal where the profit of the business is, if it's used to pay off the loan, the profit is double the amount of the loan installment each year or each month. So if the coverage is really high, if the profit, if the company is making a lot of money and you have a loan which is really small compared to the profit, then that's a good deal. Okay. Again, this explanation is oversimplified. This is a technical thing. I cannot really get into it in this video, but just to make you understand about this. So now, you have access to banks, you have advisors, and you're looking for a business to buy. And you will see the industry, different industries have different volume of businesses. Some industry, if you see in your country, may have 5,000 businesses in that industry that you are targeting. So you have 5,000 potential targets and you need only 15 or 20 to get rich. So all you got to do is just pick up the fucking phone and get into get in touch with these people, get to the decision maker, agree on the purchase price, ink the deals, negotiate it right, bring the purchase price down, pay a little bit money up front and rest all in the installments. If you structure a very shrewd and a great deal, then you can get financing for it and you can take ownership of the company and you can start building a portfolio of several multi-million-dollar companies. And by the way, you will have majority stake in this company if you follow the system. So imagine having 60-70% of $1 million business or a $10 million business or several $10 million businesses. And that's wealth. That's why the name of the book is Your First 100 Million. So then you find a business, you get in touch with the business owner, you agree on the purchase price, you agree on the terms, you ink that on a piece of paper, which is a legal document. Not going to get into technicalities of it right now. You go to the bank, get financing, or set up, a structure, a seller finance deal. You own the business. That's one deal. And you keep doing several deals and you have a healthy portfolio. The board is happy. You are happy. Everybody's happy. Okay. So this is the deal flow. Okay. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about how you actually make money. Okay. Where exactly do you make money? This is all nice. You're doing deals, but how am I going to get paid? How am I going to get rich? How am I going to get wealthy? I'm going to talk about it in the next video. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you want to get mentored by me and reach out to me personally, I'm leaving my social media accounts. Okay, so just send me a message if you want to be mentored by me. I mentor entrepreneurs over 3 to 6 month period on how to execute this M&A. Based on the experiences that I have had, and I have actually implemented everything that I'm talking about here. So if you want to be mentored by me personally on a one-on-one basis over the 3 to 6 months, every step of the way, then get in touch with me. You can set up a free consultation call by sending me a message on my social media. Okay? So I'll talk to you in the next week. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about how do you make money in all of this. It's very nice to be involved in deals, doing multi-million-dollar deals, signing a bunch of paper, doing a lot of presentations, but how do you actually get paid? So there are several areas where you will get paid. Okay. First of all, you need to understand you will have, if you execute everything properly, you will have over 65 to 75% of your company. So you're really the major shareholder. And when you have 75% of the company, you have decision-making power. Your partners will advise you and guide you and direct you, and you need to listen to them. But ultimately, you will have the decision-making power if you set everything up correctly. So here is how you get paid. So whenever you buy a business, typically there will be a fundraising process, okay, where you will raise money from the bank. Let's say in this example, you raise some money from the bank and you have a $1 million deal, and that's the purchase price, and you need to come up with this $1 million. And when you go to the bank, and if the deal is structured properly, if the price is proper, if the profit is proper, there are so many factors. I'm giving a plain example. If you have a $1 million deal, you will go to the bank and you will typically raise 1.1 million or 1.2 million. You can overfinance the deal, and you can structure that additional $100,000 or $200,000 either as working capital or as closing costs. Every transaction has some closing costs, and you can raise this extra money. So let's say you raised 1.2 million for a $1 million transaction. The $1 million are going to go to the seller. Okay, you have $200,000 remaining. $100,000 are going to go to the lawyers and accountants, $50,000 each. You have $100,000 remaining. Out of this $100,000, you can pay yourself and your directors as bonus. So you can pay yourself between $30,000, $40,000 from that, and you can pay the rest. You can distribute it among the people. Why do you pay yourself a little bit extra? Because you are the one who is in need of most money. These are senior executives, and you are the one putting in most of the time. So this is the reason why you get a little bit extra, because you need it. This is your primary source of income. For them, it may not be their primary source of income. So that's one area. So every time you do a deal, you pay yourself a bonus. If you do a $1 million deal, the bonus is going to be small. If you do a $5 million deal, the bonus can be large. It's possible that you may not have enough money in the financing to pay yourself bonus. It is possible. But the larger you do the deal, it's possible that you have a larger, the bigger the bonus. Okay? That's one area. Every time you do a deal, you will get paid money. Then you will have a salary. Let's say you acquire several multi-million-dollar businesses. Now, the profit that the business is generating will go to the bank, okay, to pay off the loan. Majority of the profit actually is going to go to the bank. Some is going to go towards paying off the loan, and some the bank may ask that you need to keep the deposits a little bit extra. So if your payment is, let's say, $100,000, the bank may say that it's okay that payment towards the loan is $100,000, but you need to still put an added $50,000 more. So the point is, majority of the portion will be locked with the majority portion of the profit will be locked with the bank, because they want to make sure that if there is a down period, there is surplus cash in their account and they can just withdraw it to pay off the loan. So anyway, getting into too much technicality, you will have some money that you will structure in the business as a salary. So you will pay yourself a salary from the business. You will not be extracting profit. You will be paying yourself a salary. You can have a basic salary from each business. So if you pull out a little bit money from each business, you will have a very healthy salary. And, so you can pay yourself a salary from your businesses. And once the loan is paid out in a couple of years, you will have more money to pull out. But it's not a wise thing to pull out a lot of money from the business and start buying extravagant, like things which are extravagant. You don't do that. Because you can use this money to buy more companies rather than spending on lifestyle shit, so and make even more wealth. So that's always going to be the dilemma. Should I spend it or should I keep it? You always want to keep it, in case you get into a lawsuit or you want to acquire another company that's big in size and make more money from it. You want to have that option. So you'll pay yourself a salary and you can pay expenses through that. So where is the big money made? You might ask. The big money is in the exit. And this video, I'm going to be talking about the exit. So you are not doing all of this so that you can just take control of these companies and then keep hoarding the profits. That's not the purpose of the business. The purpose of this business is for you to have a big payday at the end of the investment cycle. So if your investment, and this company is not something you will run for 10, 15, 25 years. Okay. This company is going to be structured in a way that it's going to run, between 5 to 7 years, 5 to 8 years, that kind of time horizon. It may be 3 years. Okay. So it's called a limited duration venture. The entire purpose of what you're doing is for you to be able to sell this company one day. So you're building to sell. You're not building to keep. Why would you build something to sell? The reason you will build something to sell is because you can sell it for 2, 3, 4, 5 times more than what you paid initially. So if you acquired a bunch of businesses and you borrowed $30 million to do all of these deals, you can potentially exit at $100, $150 million, depending upon how you exit, market conditions, the type of buyer, and your exit strategy. Okay. Some exit strategies are very risky and have very high rewards associated with it. For example, an IPO. Some strategies are a little bit less risky, but they will have a lower price associated with it. So it's, again, risk and reward. But you can get up to 2 to 5 times. That's the range. Sometimes you can get even more. It depends on how you exit, the market conditions, and so many other factors. Okay. So there are 2 ways to exit this portfolio. Let's say you have 10 companies under your umbrella. All of them are multi-million-dollar businesses, and you are holding tight. You're paying your expenses, but you're not really feeling rich. You're feeling powerful, but you're not feeling rich because you've gotten paid and you're making money. You're happy, but you don't have hundreds of millions in your bank in cash. And suddenly, when you have this portfolio, you will start to get offers from private equity firms. You will start to be approached by other groups in your industry who want to grow and who will offer you a premium price for your group. So what happens is, why you can get 2 times, 3 times. You might ask, why would somebody pay so much for the businesses I paid so little? The reason is because there is more demand for bigger sized companies than it is for small sized companies. And when I say big, I'm really talking about $100 million business. So there are fewer $100 million businesses compared to a $1 million business. There will be thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of $1 million businesses. And the amount of time it takes to do a $1 million, buy a $1 billion business and a $50 to $100 million business is almost the same. It needs the same legal work. It needs the same financing process. And, more or less the time it takes is the same. So people prefer to do big deals. Have big industry leaders want to do big deals. They are not interested in small businesses. And this is the reason why we acquire many small businesses, because nobody actually wants to buy them. And this is the reason you can get a discounted price. So you just buy several small businesses, you eat a bunch of small fish and you become a big fish. And the value there are very few big fish, and the value for that big fish is a lot, and people are willing to pay a premium for that big fish. As simple as that. So you will put a bunch of small fishes and eat a bunch of small fishes and become a big fish. And then you have even a bigger fish coming and buying you out. Okay. So typically, if it's a $50 to $100 million business, you can get 8 to 10 times the yearly profit of your company. So if your yearly profit is $10 million, you can get $80 million for your group. Okay. Or 100 million. Sometimes 120 million. It just depends on the need of that group that comes to buy you and the stupidity of that group that comes to buy you. And other factors, okay? And how many of $120 million deals are there in your country. If there are few big groups, then it's very likely you will get a high price, because there are not that many big groups. And you are one of them, so people will pay more. So this is how you make double the money. Now, obviously, when you receive this bunch of money, 80 to 100 million, it's possible that you may have some loan still remaining. So you will take some money and pay off the loan. You may have some money that you have to pay for tax, and you'll have some money that you pay your directors. So it's possible you may be left with somewhere between $40 to $50 million. Again, I'm playing scenario. Okay, these are the numbers that Dan Pena's mentees have produced and have actually experienced. So I'm using real life examples, but this is the type of money that you can make, and then you can do it again and make more, do it again, make more, and you can keep making. Okay, so that's why it's called your first 100 million. How much money you make simply depends on how big your portfolio is. You can keep buying companies and keep becoming bigger and bigger, because the more companies you buy, the more powerful you become, the more financing you have available, and you can keep buying more and more companies. So that's one way of selling the company, is to another group or a private equity firm. The second way is to do an IPO. What is an IPO? IPO is also like an exit, but instead of one private equity or one healthcare group, it's going to be probably thousands of people taking shares in the company. So when there is one buyer buying one thing, and when there is thousands and thousands of buyers buying one thing, the price changes. The price becomes inflated. Okay. When there is one thing that's so valuable and there are thousands of people buying that same thing, small piece of that thing, the whole thing becomes inflated. And this is the reason why when you do an IPO, you can get 15 times, 21 times, 24 times the profit for that year. That can be the size. I mean, if you exit through private equity, it's 8 to 12 times the yearly profit. If you do IPO, it's 15 times, 18 times, 21 times, 24 times also. There are companies listed in the stock exchange market for 24 times, 25 times. So these companies can grow crazy. And imagine your stock that you hold in that company, how valuable it can become. Most of the billionaires have come from IPOs. If most people, that's the day. If you want to track back when somebody became a billionaire, it was the day they took their company public. Mark Cuban is a famous example. He was making a couple of $100 million. His company was worth a couple of $100 million. He did an IPO. So many people came in and bought the shares. The stock price went up for his shareholdings. He sold the stock and he became a billionaire. And before he did the IPO, he said, I'm going to be in the BBC, big, I think Billionaires Boys Club. I'm going to be in the Billionaires Boys Club now, because he planned to do an IPO, and he knew that if he does an IPO, if it goes well, he's going to become a billionaire. So this is how many people actually become billionaires. They create companies and then they take it public. So that's another way. Again, it's risky. It's possible that you take your company public and then it just doesn't have the, people don't buy shares or the market crashes. There are so many scenarios, and it's very expensive to do an IPO. It can take, Goldman Sachs can charge between 10 and 20% of the whole IPO. So if it's a $1 billion IPO, then Goldman Sachs can charge you 100 million. So, typically you go through Goldman Sachs and these big banks do these IPOs. So that's, the kind of price you're looking to pay, but everybody makes money. So in most cases, or in a lot of cases, I don't want to standardize IPOs. But yes, there is a lot of risk, but there is a big reward associated with it. Now, Dan Pena did an IPO, okay, and his company went to $450 million valuation. So he talks about how he did IPO. When I attended the Castle seminar, he talks about IPO as the rush that you cannot replace it with anything else. It's a rush that is so magnificent that, like, you see your money multiply and your hard work multiply so many folds that it's very addicting. He says it's better than the best sex he's ever had. He uses many metaphors like that, but it's a tremendous possibility, and it takes a lot of risk. Many companies also fail pre-IPO, or maybe they're going for the IPO and they cannot exit. There are so many scenarios possible, and there is a lot of risks involved in the business. But we are talking big money here, so big risk, big reward. And this is the end of the series. This is how the whole thing works. This is how Dan Pena did it. This is how he took his company public. These are the concepts. This is how his mentees made the money. And now you can make it too. Go check out the book. And read it. I've listened to the book around 3 or 4 times to be able to fully understand it. But now that you've seen this series, you will be able to understand it much better. And as I mentioned, if you want to get in touch with me, if you want to be mentored by me, if you want to execute this business model, I'm also in the process of executing and doing deals. So, if you want to be mentored by me one-on-one over a period of 3 to 6 months, then reach out to me on my social media accounts. I'm going to put links to them here, and just write me a message saying that you want to do a free consultation call. I'll offer you one free consultation call where I'll look into your situation and we'll see if we can work together. And if we can work together, we'll work together 3 to 6 months, and I'll help you build this company step by step by step by step. On every step of the way, I'll be there to guide you. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me. As I said, I can only take 3 to 4 clients in 3 to 6 months, so seats are very limited. This is a one-on-one program, and it takes a lot of my time and energy. I cannot do it for a lot of people. Okay, so I'll talk to you soon. I hope you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button for more videos like this, and I'll talk to you soon.